Welcome to Flow with Arman Assadi. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I just wrapped up an amazing episode with my friend Drew Morisey. You are going to really enjoy this one. So I met Drew through Clubhouse, actually. And if you haven't heard of Clubhouse already, it's the new app that everybody's talking about. But I'm pretty bullish on it. I'm a fan of it. I was like obsessed with it for the first 3 days. I had to take a break because it was getting a little addictive. But one of the people I met on the platform was Drew. And the reason we met is we had an amazing intellectual discourse about some really big stuff, some very triggering stuff. And the fact that we were able to have this amazing discourse and learn from each other, I was like, dude, I got to follow this guy. I got to reach out to him. Connected with him, slowly been building this friendship, asked him to be on the show. And now here we are today. So Drew's background is actually YouTube. The guy owns the channel How to Rap on YouTube. He's been teaching people how to rap. He's a performer. He's an artist for many years now. I believe he has 400,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. And so when it comes to content and things like that, he has a ton of experience. But what we mostly talked about today was the world as it stands. And we had this amazing intellectual discourse about the left and the right, the new president, where the world's going, Black Lives Matter, which I really appreciated getting his perspective on. It was very nuanced. And yeah, this was just an amazing episode. And we did make sure to wrap up with his YouTube tips, which were absolutely fire. I'm actually going to clip that out and create a video of that because it was so good. So I'm going to cut to the episode. Make sure if you are listening that you are subscribed. You need to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening to get notified of new episodes. And also, as I've been saying, I am totally focusing on YouTube, so you've got to subscribe to my new YouTube channel. Links to everything are in the show notes, or just go to armanassadi.com and I link out to everything from there. So, without further ado, my conversation with Drew Morisey. I kind of want to kick off with I have a very important question for you. Mm-hmm. This is a big deal. How did you become a Manchester City Football Club fan?
I say that wearing red, which is probably disrespectful to my squad. Well, you know what it is so I'm an American, obviously. I do music, like that's been my life path for a long time. And I was a Beatles fan when I was first a kid, a huge Beatles fan. And I don't know, I guess in the era World Cup, you get into the stuff. And I was like, well, who are the Beatles support? And I'll just support them. And they kind of famously did not have, it was Liverpool, it was Everton, whatever. So I went to like my second kind of other rock band that are very Beatles similar, which is Oasis. So, but Oasis, they're huge Man City fans. And so I was like, all right, well, I go with that. And This was before all the big money and all that. So, at the time I thought, oh, it's just cool to have a cool team, but now they're this big household name, so it's kind of been fun.
Yeah. So how long ago would that have been? Because I think it's only been like what, a little more.
10-ish, 10.
Yeah, that they really started to just like take over, and the money came in.
I got into them in 2006. So
yeah, that makes sense.
And then they got money in like 2008, and then they started being really good in like 2011, 2012.
Yeah, and now we got the Pep Guardiola era. My God, that guy.
He's. I mean, we were blessed. That was like the chatter for years because we were just this big hulking money thing, and now we have him, and it's been amazing. But we've also had our struggles. We can't win Europe.
Yeah,
we're terrible in Europe. So
yeah. So I've played soccer my whole life. Huge fan. Especially of the European leagues. Obviously, everybody loves the English Premier League that watches soccer. I'm a big Barcelona fan. This is like crisis mode right now. It's going to be like a good few year stretch, I think, of just like really shitty rebuilding. And personally, I hope Messi leaves.
You do?
I do, for the sake of his own career, out of like a selfless move of obviously my love for Barcelona is, through and through. But it's like, and Messi is such a huge part of that. Like he's an icon. I mean, he's the GOAT. But it's like this guy has a few years left to be dominant, and he's already wasted the last two or three with shitty
Mm,
coaches and a shitty team that's just been like barely hanging on.
yeah.
So I would hate to see him go. I would love to see the club get it together, winning titles, a great coach, great squad, and Messi like retiring there. But I don't think it's going to happen. And I think if he stayed and retired, then it would just be a waste of his last few years and what he could accomplish. Dude, he might come to City like that.
That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll take it. But yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, he's sort of an institution to the beautiful game. So I think we all want to see him end strong, but
Right.
definitely we all see him as a Barcelona player. So I don't know, where do you think he'd go? You know what I mean?
I mean,
Other than
the
us.
two options that the only two options that are like seriously being spoken about are Man City because he would get to reunite with Pep Guardiola,
Mhm.
and PSG because they can afford it.
Yeah. And
And
they still Neymar, all these people.
yeah, and Neymar's making these little suggestions like would love to play with Messi again, let's make it happen. But I don't know. Soccer is a business, man. All sports are, and so the corruption that goes on behind the scenes, the things that are happening. Who knows, man? Who knows how this plays out? And does it really come down to what the player wants? And I mean that we witnessed that this last summer when he wanted to leave,
Yeah.
and the president of the club just basically was super shady toward him and didn't let him. Was like, you didn't read the fine print, and it's like, really?
Yep.
So it's a business, man. It's a business, and it's unfortunate because one of the reasons I personally really appreciate sports and culture and things like that, and music as well, is because you see people in an ultra state of actually ironically flow, but what you really see them is exuding greatness to the highest level possible. Like these people are not just your everyday, like they played college ball or something like that. There's an obsession that is so beautiful that is like this example of what the human body and mind is capable of if it actually applies itself to one thing like a sport or a craft like music. I just think it's so fascinating to watch and witness people like LeBron and Michael Phelps or Eminem or Tupac or whatever it might be. And it's like the things that they accomplish, they're you can't recreate that. Like it's just a beautiful thing to me.
Yeah, I love it. And I like seeing their ups and downs too. It's like, in fiction or storytelling, we have to create the hero's journey, but with all these legends, we get to see the ups and downs, and we're seeing, sort of a downturn for Messi.
Yeah.
LeBron James is obviously kind of famously lost game, and I like to see their failures as well, coinciding with their successes, because it's very inspiring. It's obviously inspiring to win, but also to when I see Messi messing up, like, and I've watched him mess up, and when I
Mm-hmm.
mess up, I think of him. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
I think of him as well. It's funny.
So does it just make you think like that it's just more relatable that way because it's like the hero's journey is always going to have these obstacles and challenges? Like it's just a good example of that. I think yeah, sometimes we do put them on a pedestal, huh? Like as if they're superhuman.
Yeah, I think that seeing our idols fail, or struggle, allows, when we're in these very confusing. It's just ambiguity, right? And like a lot of times, I think of, what makes a good leader, a good business person, is tolerance of ambiguity.
Yeah.
And so, when I can relate to somebody on their how they deal with the ambiguity, I
Hmm.
feel like it definitely helps me relate, to what I need to do next.
So speaking of leaders, man, I was just like taking a moment this morning and feeling like grateful that this transition in America of power happened not the way it typically does. A lot of traditions were broken, we might say, but at least it was peaceful now. The inauguration was peaceful. Everything after the Capitol riots was peaceful, thank God. And it's like, I kind of had a moment this morning where maybe a naive optimism, but just kind of like, okay, maybe this is the calm we need. Maybe things are going to start just generally calming down and moving in the right direction. What do you think? Have you been thinking about it? And what would
Yeah,
you guess 2021 is going to look like politically?
that's a great question. I mean, I made a room today in Clubhouse called "Make America Boring Again." You know, and it was there was this weird feeling when I woke up that I grabbed my phone, I guess, to look at the news as we do, and I kind of realized I don't necessarily have to look at my phone in the same way anymore. And
Mm,
yes, obviously we'll have to see, but I could wake up today and assume that if there was an issue socio-culturally or whatever, that some of our leaders wouldn't necessarily be stoking the flames, right?
yeah.
And I'm sure both of us are old enough to remember like the 90s and thousands where, whether it was Clinton or Bush one or whatever, we could go a week without having to
Yeah.
worry what the president was up to or what he was thinking, or what he was planning, and even without putting any sides on it, I think we are all looking forward to a few months where we don't have to think about what's going to be in the news outside of the rollout and stuff. And to your question, I think that this is going to be for spring and summer. It's going to be pretty much just rollout vaccine and
Mm-hmm.
mostly you know getting enough of a critical mass so that we can start to get past this thing, and things can start to get back to normal.
You think that'll be like the primary focus in general? Yeah, that makes sense because there's really nothing more important at this stage, whether it affects everything, right? The economy, everything. But dude, to your point, I'm gonna borrow that. Make America boring again. I literally had a conversation with some friends. It was one of my other podcast episodes actually, and we call them tipsy talks because we're drinking a little bit as we're as we're doing it, and politics almost always comes up. And it was like the thing about the last 4 years is that it was literally like a real life reality show.
Yeah.
And the challenge with that, the benefits of that to Trump are that he's constantly on your radar, and he's a master of that. The challenge as a citizen is that you're constantly yourself sort of operating in a mode of anxiety. Like you really don't know what's going to happen next. And that sets everybody up for fear of everything, whether it's a comment he's going to make about a race and how do we interpret that? What the fuck did that mean? Or, a policy that he's going to bring forward, or the way he responds to another world leader and just tweets at him and goes like, F you. So it's just, it was constantly like, shit, what's going to be the result of that? What's going to happen next? And it's just constant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that that's exactly what I hope we get is this more moderate, balanced, calm politics, in my opinion, or rather the presidency, in my opinion. It isn't supposed to be this like giant reality show media outlet 24/7. It's kind of supposed to be in the background. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
things are
Mhm.
happening, policies are being made, decisions are being made for the best interests of citizens, protect the little guy and the little girl, and make sure everybody's happy and protected and has a chance at equality and liberty of living a good life. But when it takes over, it just gets absolutely chaotic, man. So I could not agree more, and I hope
Yeah.
that's exactly what we get.
Yeah.
It's
And
gonna
I
be what
think
we need.
I think we've dealt with cult of personality politics, obviously for 4 years, but we can even say maybe for 12 because, Obama,
Hmm.
the whether or not he took it on, right? He knew how to handle it maybe a little bit more gracefully, but the religiosity and loyalty to our president, this main figure,
Mm.
I think that there was a level of that going with Obama as well, where the president seemed to define everybody's life. We're in Obama's America, we're in Trump's America, and to your point, like I think that we need to have some time where who the president is, what the government is being, how it's run. It's just it's like the third thing on our minds, right? Like, especially as long as we do have to worry about sort of safety protocols, you can't travel, yeah, it's exhausting.
It's very exhausting. Yeah, and it's been I think that regardless of what, well, I can't really fully say this because if you are a staunch Trump supporter, you're not happy right now. Like, and I understand that, but I think that even that person, to a degree, could agree that this might be better for everybody. Like, in the sense that, yes, Biden talks about uniting. I don't know to what degree that will happen, and I don't know what degree everyone will be open to that, is the best way to put it. But at least the idea is there, and at least there's a calmness in the presence, and he's not going to stoke the fire, which is, I think, the most important thing, or at least I hope. We'll see how hardline he is. Sometimes people can be very surprising.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
curious, man. Like, have you always sort of just been involved, been studying, been educating yourself in these areas, or is it more of a recent thing? Because a lot of the way we met, like the rooms that we've been in on Clubhouse, a lot of them are about politics, policy, their culture, race. There's some really big discussions happening on
Mhm.
Clubhouse, and I'm really grateful for that platform. But like, did it happen once you kind of saw things happening on Clubhouse, or was it more this is always something you've been sort of interested in?
Yeah, great. I mean, great question. I grew up in DC, right? So there's that angle where you're always on the periphery of politics and policy and all that. But probably the, like, straight line reason that I'm been into this or know about it is my parents are both lawyers. My mom has worked in the Justice Department before. My dad worked under Ted Kennedy. My parents are sort of political
Mm-hmm.
civil rights type lawyers. So that was just always in the water. And then I myself took an interest in it. Just, my major in college was American literature and culture.
Mm.
So, I have a deep interest in sort of American culture, essentially. And I was born in Boston, grew up between Philly and DC, right? So I'm from the part of the country where, where you're just steeped in history. You're
Yeah.
steeped in this building did this for this, and it relates to that, and look at things now,
Mm.
and then just over time, I've been more and more passionate about it. And I lived overseas. I've been to 30 countries. I lived in about 4 or 5 countries.
Really? Which ones?
Yeah. So the ones I lived in, longest was Budapest, Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
in
love
Hungary.
that place.
Oh yeah. That's my other home away from home.
Wow.
Budapest is amazing. I lived in Berlin a little while and
Mm-hmm.
London for a little while. So, you know, it
Wow.
helps contextualize your Americanness. When you're
Definitely.
out
Yeah,
there.
I haven't, I don't know if I could say I lived abroad. I lived in Southeast Asia for a few months. But just generally traveling is the most eye-opening thing in the world. I've been to like a similar number of countries, and dude, I would not be who I am today had I not like taken that leap and just started going and going and going. And you walk into a bar, you walk into a restaurant, you walk down the street, you have a conversation, and you hear these like shocking statements about their way of life, about their view of America.
Yeah.
And you hear that enough times, you realize like the number of interpretations and reality tunnels that a human being can live in. And we're a little so absorbed with our reality here as well. I think you know this. Americans don't realize how it's not. It's just this like over identification with American culture and assuming that that is the culture of the world. Like, we're in a bubble, man. Like, a lot of people don't give a shit like what's going on here. They look at it
Yeah.
like it's a TV show. They're
Oh
just
yeah.
like, oh wow, there they go again. Those fucking
It's
Americans.
so funny. It reminds me of being in London, and we were at this comedy show, and an American was heckling a British comedian, and I was kind of thinking, I was like, so how is this a comedian gonna roast the American? and he immediately goes to a gun joke, right? And it just like something like that where it's so infused into our culture. I didn't even think that that would be the angle to
Hmm.
do because we're so that's just such a given in our culture. It just reminded me of, oh yeah, that's a big stereotype that we forget when we're in the States, that people see. They see us as all having, I've had many people ask me, um, is it safe there? Are
Yeah.
you scared to walk down the street? And I'm just like,
Yeah.
it wouldn't even cross my mind to think about that particularly as our biggest danger, being here.
100%. 100%. Because, and first of all, people think we're insane. I mean, you spend enough time in Europe, and the idea of guns is like barbaric almost, I think is the way it's
Mm-hmm.
looked at. It's like, what are you guys doing with all those guns? Like, what's the point? And then you'll be like, well, it's, and I think about this and I understand it. I'm like, well, like, it's important from a perspective of like citizens having power, individual rights, and things like that. And I can understand it. And you defense against tyranny, and making sure the big government doesn't just like swallow you up one day. And that's where our culture, like that is like steeped in our culture. Like that's how America started. Like there's this PTSD, right? Like about your government and tyranny. And so there's this defense of states' rights and local rights and gun laws in order to give the individual some form of individual security. And so I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me. But for a country who's never been through that or doesn't have that in their DNA, it's basically barbaric. And obviously, you look at what's happening in America and you look at the number of people that get killed by gun violence, and for everybody else, it's like 1 + 1 = 2, guys.
Right,
But
right.
to us, I think it's more nuanced. Well, it depends who you ask. It
Right,
depends who you
right.
ask in America.
No,
But
it's I mean, to your point, it's like, you know, a lot of this country is founded specifically about grievances of British soldiers, literally staying in our homes and stuff. I mean, that stuff is literally in the Declaration of Independence, and a lot of even the Second Amendment specifically is expressly about the fact that we were an occupied territory, basically trying to fight our way off, and for folks overseas, I think they it doesn't make sense to them because the countries that were the occupying people, so we're thinking about the Germanys and the Russias and stuff like that. Those cultures go back centuries, and then the people who were occupied, they didn't solve their problems necessarily by like militias, you know what I
yeah,
mean, per se. So it's
right,
interesting.
right. It really is, man. Where do you think things are going? I mean, obviously in America, like it goes without saying, like the level of conflict we've seen in the ideologies that are just continuing to become stronger and more concrete and grow further apart. It feels like that conflict was hitting a whole new level until this smooth inauguration happened. Thank God.
Mm.
So I guess my question is like, we've been talking about this and you've been posting about it. I've been posting about it. Like, do you think that a lot of this radicalism on both sides is going to calm down or get worse, and we're going to continue to see conflict even with like a Biden presidency?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, like we said, we could talk about it from two sides. I think, okay, so, maybe a way to couch this is, you know, what's quote unquote side is more likely to splinter off. I've seen a lot of rooms about that, right? And,
Mm,
I think, on the left, I think that they have an inherent problem where a lot of the culture is based on, and people would say identity politics. One way of saying it is specific sort of micro issues
yeah.
that they've kind of come together to get things through. So like, if somebody is a BLM person, their main issue is a certain type of liberation, which is different than somebody who would consider themselves a feminist, which is different
Hmm.
than somebody who would big on immigration or climate change, right? So there's all these little smaller factions, and I think that the Democrats or the left can weather that storm probably at least through this pandemic, right? So maybe a year or two. We'll see how the midterms
Mm.
go, but I think that that is a big issue,
Hmm.
that they're going to have to face, where it's a brittle coalition right now, and
Too many
everybody,
factions. Yeah.
too many factions, right? And I don't think that's going to go away. So I think that that might be a big thing on the left. I think
Hmm.
for the right, obviously, since we're recording this, you have maybe the Patriot Party, right, and sort of the religion of Trump, and just what that is. How aligned is that with whether it's establishment conservatives or the new conservatives who might care less about Trumpism or establishment stuff, but they care more about fiscal responsibility, reaching
Mm.
out to minorities, right? Like, there's this whole other, there's kind of three to me parts of the Republicans right now. There's the Trumpers, there's the establishment, Mitch McConnell, etc., and then
Uh-huh.
there's the new, I'm a young, maybe minority Republican who
Hmm.
just wants to get back to sort of this Reagan-esque civil, conservatism. So I think it'll be okay. I think once, especially once the pandemic, I think I made this point in a room that you were in, right, where I said, look, a lot of this is really in the pressure cooker because we're
Mm-hmm.
all still stuck inside. I can guarantee a lot of the radicals and the protesters, again, on both sides, once they can go to the bar, once they can travel, once they can go
Mingle together.
mingle,
Yeah.
right, and get some, sleep together if they're young
Yeah.
people, right? A lot of the youthful frustration, I'm like, it's just because y'all like not dating.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Good point, man. Good
I
point.
think,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that it won't be as, I think it won't be as hot, um, in 2022 or
Too
23.
much fucking time on social media, right? Too much time inside, too much time on social media. The views become more and more hardened, less time mingling with people that don't look or think like you. Like it makes sense why things would become more and more extreme. And then obviously you watch a movie like The Social Dilemma, one of the most
Mhm.
terrifying movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that movie's intense.
It's intense, it's terrifying, and it's like, "Oh, okay. Pandora's box is open. Like,
Yep,
what can we
yep.
do here? What can we do?" And I know big tech censorship is something that you've been thinking about as well. I've obviously been thinking about it a lot. I think that's another thing that we're going to have to deal with this year.
Yeah.
It's a big thing that we're going to have to deal with. And yeah, I mean, do you see the government coming in? Because obviously the the right, we could say, is the one that is currently suffering, right, as a
Mhm.
result of big tech censorship, at least before the election. And they're typically not the ones that are going to say, "Hey, government, like, can you come fix this, please?" Like,
Yeah.
typically, stereotypically. But right now, they are, and I can understand why. I absolutely can, because I think if you just kind of look at it down the middle, it's just straight up dangerous, and it sets the wrong precedent. So I'd be curious, like, do you think that we're going to see some government intervention, some regulation? What's going to happen with big tech?
Yeah, I did well, and I made a long form video you might have seen about this, where, you know, I, first things first, right? I think the antitrust levers and what we saw with the antitrust congressional hearings in 2020
Mm-hmm.
were bipartisan. Both quote unquote sides were the same level of anger and vitriol, right? So we have, as you said, you have the right is concerned about conservative voices being deplatformed or silenced, and the left is concerned about elect what they see as election interference in
Right.
regards to 2016, right? And
Big
so I
time.
think that you know what I mean. So I think that both sides have a very legitimate grievance with the fangs, as they call it, right? Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
Apple, right? So I think that we will see, at the very least, I would predict some breaking up of Facebook, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think that in WhatsApp, and Instagram probably would be broken up. And that's just my own sort of armchair analysis and studying a lot of people who know more about this. I think Google, maybe, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
big football seems to be the Google search,
Yeah.
taking Google search. So I think that will be one thing I think we'll see soon. Um, Regarding, I think that the last year brought up a lot of other things we didn't think about, right? So we had
Yeah.
the Apple Parlor debacle, right? And
Yeah.
historically, right, our concerns about censorship were more couched in just Twitter and Facebook, but now we have the tension between the Apples and the Amazons of the world, and
Mm-hmm.
that I don't quite have a beat on, but certainly that's going to be a big one too because
You're
it
referring to the distribution of apps?
yes,
Yeah.
distribution, right,
Yep.
right,
Yep. And
and then the
that
hosting
is
of content as
definitely.
well.
I don't think we've really seen example. This is definitely, I think, one of the first this issue with Parler, where not only the distribution being controlled by two companies, Apple and Google, basically, but the infrastructure of the web and the back end of most companies runs through Amazon. So it's like that was a big deal. I need to read up on this because I think the other day somebody sent me something that's like Parler's making their way back. They're kind of figuring it out. But I mean, huge obstacles to overcome. Huge. Like if my company, dude, like got deplatformed by Apple, like my app got deplatformed by Apple and Google, and then they literally went, "We're taking all of your AWS away." Oh my God. For somebody like me, that would take, I don't know if I would, I don't know if there's a way back, actually. I think it would be the end of the company. So it's like, it's a big deal. The distribution part's a bigger deal. The back end infrastructure part of Amazon AWS is like there are other solutions, but just shifting all of that and moving all of that data is a really big deal. So this is the first time things like this have been brought up. And the interesting thing about it is I just thought the way it happened was so weird, man. It was like one company made a decision and the rest were like, all right, cool, that sounds good with us. Like, I don't know how much, I mean, obviously there was more thought than that, but I think it was just this like, we're all going to build a coalition against Trump specifically and his ideas before this election, before things get out of hand. And you have to look at that and say, like, what were the pros and cons there? And in the end, did that prevent further violence? I think it might have actually, like based on what we've seen. I don't know. There was a study done. I think the New York Times published that, like there was 90% less, um, like inaccurate posts that were either talking about election fraud still or things like that. Like a lot of that stuff completely went away. I need to look at it more deeply, but like it went away. Like the question is, was that objectively the right thing to do? And that was a very sticky situation, man. And I
Yeah,
know
I mean,
we
I
talked
think
about that a bit.
yeah, I mean, I think well, for me, there's the case study of the last couple weeks, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think and Jack Dorsey, I mean, he did come out and basically said that they it was a waterfall effect.
Yep.
Now, because, and we've talked about this before, I mean, I think that no matter what happens, whether it's inciting insurrection or whether it's just a clear bright line towards violence, I think
Mm-hmm.
that the government will have to come and step in. I think that
Hmm.
even if we had this sort of neutral, you can't deplatform people internet at some point with legislation, context like that, I think that the government would still have to come and step in and deplatform folks. So I think we're in a little
Hmm.
bit of a hard spot because
Yeah.
as long as we can through internet trace a crime or coalitions of crime being um, attacked, these folks are still going to have to be dealt with, right? And I mean, I think that we all agree
Yeah.
that we need to have legal intervention regarding the deplatforming of people as it relates to crime specifically, right? I think
Yeah.
we can all get on board on that.
For
And
sure.
then, maybe some of the more sticky, tough discussions come around you know, communicating certain ideas. Because, yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe you could tell me about. The impression that I got was that Parler was having a lot of, whether it was misinformation or actual criminal
Yeah, or like
activity being supported.
hang, Mike Pence, and that was on Twitter as well, though, and they allowed it to kind of like trend on Twitter for a while.
Mm,
Yeah, or like organization of violence, like at the
mm,
Capitol in advance, and what was going to happen next, and yeah, I mean, there's fucking crazy people out there, man. Like it's just
yeah,
like that's just a fact, and they're just going to always find the next um like space that they can, and then again the question comes is like, well, what spaces should be allowed for these discussions to happen, even if we view the ideas as absolutely crazy or dangerous, and how much do we control speech? And it's like, I think in an ideal society you would kind of be tolerant and hope that um, the majority of people just look at those people and look at those ideas and say like, you're out of your mind, like get out of here with that. And like human beings sort of need to like self-correct themselves in a sense. Like we need that reflection at times of someone to look at us and be like, that's insane, that's dangerous, that's stupid, because then we kind of wake up and go, okay, maybe I need to learn a little more about that, so I think that's where some of the censorship stuff is really interesting. But we as you know, like Naval Ravikant is on Clubhouse, and I love his rooms. Brilliant, brilliant guy. Um, I don't have a
yeah,
guru, but
he's
that's the
great.
closest thing to it, man. He's a
I love his
brilliant
stuff.
fucking guy, and I mean, obviously, one of the things he talks about is like it's just going to push people and technology to be further decentralized and encrypted and as private and anonymous as possible. Everyone's going to be more anonymous. Everything's going to be decentralized. Signal's like the number one app to download. Everyone's moving their conversations there out of fear and out of like, I think, future pacing what might come. And so I think like, I don't know, if I was an entrepreneur working on a new idea, I'd probably be working on things in that direction. Um, to help create a more decentralized, safe, free speech social media. Because I think if we try to like limit that, it's only going to cause more friction on the surface. We just have to realize, I think, that limiting the speech of people and censorship, these are big things, but I think we do have to have a space for them. It's not everyone that wants to participate in that space, but the opportunity to participate in that space, I think, is important. Otherwise, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I mean, my thing is, if people are coming together to plan a criminal act or a seditious act, there's always going to be an impetus for the government to intervene, right? And the only way that that would happen is enough times people would have done this for the government to now decide it's our
Mm-hmm.
purview. So we can think about the RICO, for example, right? The RICO set of laws. Well, part of the reason that set of laws, right, racketeering, all that, came to be was that the mob was racketeering and doing this code of silence, very similar kind of, well, we're just going to go into the back and secretively plan, and the
Mm.
government needed laws that they could pass to get these people locked up without having the cliche crumb trail of, this person did this time, right? And so for me, no matter what, I don't think necessarily that the fact that people are going to go into the shadows means
Mm-hmm.
that they shouldn't go to the shadows. I mean, I think that the government should uh, have every right to protect its citizenry
Yes.
and push people to the fringes. Now I also think that we have to understand that these companies are all around the world. We talk about Facebook, Twitter, all that. They're all around the world, partially because the public square wants to interact with them because they feel
Yeah.
like it is a valuable place. Once you get into, we've had the 4chans of the world where
Yeah.
QAnon started. We've had, we'll have to see Parler, but we've seen like Reddit, for example, which was supposed to be the public square. It's a lot of times it's a shit show because you know once you're out of what most of the general public feels is good, speech, you start to be tuned out. So I
Right.
don't necessarily think that, it's like Stormfront has always existed, right? Like, I don't think that necessarily we're in danger of these fringe people
Hmm.
coalescing and getting bigger, right, by pushing them out.
Ah. Hmm.
Um, Personally,
Yeah, that makes
I think,
sense. That
yeah.
makes sense. That's a great point. Um, so as somebody who studied culture, I'm sure, and you went to UCLA, right?
Hmm.
Nice. So you were in California too. You lived everywhere. I grew up I'm in San Diego now.
Oh, nice,
But I
nice.
grew up in
Lucky. Love
California.
that
Yeah.
place.
It's amazing. So as somebody who studied culture, one of you keep saying, you said we've seen some new things in this last year, some very new things culturally, socially, economically, politically. One of those things was obviously BLM as a movement, as an idea. What are your thoughts on how that went in 2020? Did the objectives that were sought after, are things moving in the right direction? Are they good, clear objectives? Um, are there certain things to be concerned about, or do we need to actually be supporting it more? Does the government need to get involved and actually understand it better? Like, give me the kind of big picture overview of BLM as far as you see it, and how it affects culture, knowing everything that you know and everything that you've studied, and like going forward.
Yeah, I mean, for me, okay, the way I see BLM, and this, I may be pretty unique in this, some of the things I'll say, but for me, BLM started as a hashtag, reaction to Trayvon Martin, right? And Trayvon
Mm-hmm.
Martin's killing, by somebody who was not a police officer, right? It was sort of this uh, I don't know, not mall cop, but community, the people that drive around the,
Mm-hmm.
the the subdivisions, right? And this guy took it on himself to kill this young man, and that's where that started, right? And so it seemed like, and I'm sure we could all remember that every couple of years, a sort of similarly just disgusting act of vigilante violence,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes by a cop, but sometimes by
Right.
somebody like a Zimmerman, somebody, like Aubrey last
Mm-hmm.
year, guys
Yeah.
running in the woods, and he gets ran down and killed,
Sick.
right? So like I always saw it as a sort of a phrase, or a
Yeah.
slogan that was meant to show solidarity with Black lives that have been lost, and the concern that whether it's an actual law enforcement officer, or whether it's a person that's just decided that they get to play citizens arrest or citizens murder,
Yeah.
that they get to take it up. Now, of course, sorry if there's a little bit of a, I'm in the middle
That's
of
okay.
DC.
Yeah.
Um, Now, of course, there has been now an organization, right, that has outgrown from that,
Right.
with very specific, or not even very specific, but its own chapters and its own sort of platform and things like that. And I think that organization uh, has its own aims that may not be aligned with everything that most of us, most people,
Hmm.
when they say Black Lives Matter, right? So when you see on the English Premier League, right, as
Yeah.
we know, players wearing Black Lives Matter for half the season, or when you see Black Lives Matter on 16th Street in Washington D.C., I don't think necessarily a lot of folks are speaking to the
Right.
organization.
I don't
So
think many folks are even aware. I don't know what
yes,
percentage, but I think it's that they're still living in that world of this is just an idea and a hashtag that makes sense. Like I just want to support it. Yeah.
right, yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that that's exactly, and I think that that's a salient point, because I think that a lot of what happened last year, as far as when things started to go, the tension started to rise, was you had folks that were looking at whether it's the riots, the protests, looting, all that, and you had folks that were speaking for Black Lives Matter, right? And those people might
Yeah.
be part of the organization, but then there's a lot of folks that are like, so is this what everybody, when I see the phrase Black Lives Matter, is this what they believe? And running with that, I
Mm.
mean, even blacklivesmatter.com, right? And
Yeah.
that led to a certain group of people to be turned off, because they're, now when I say Black Lives Matter, I'm I might be confused as somebody that's a part of this organization that may say
Sure.
things that, right? And then there are other people that are just saying it unknowingly, right? So I give an analogy where I say, imagine if when Me Too happened,
Mm-hmm.
a group of folks decided that, hashtag Me Too now is going to be an organization, the Me Too movement, and it's going to be run by a group of specific people that will have a platform where,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to come to the Me Too chapters and you have to align with certain values. That I think that what might have
Right.
led to a lot more confusion around Me Too. So me personally, I still think of Black Lives Matter closer to being like a Me Too thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I certainly think that the fact of the matter is where we are with this is there are now organizations and platforms that are being expressed attached with that hashtag. Of course, probably the most well known being defund the police, right? And
Yeah.
that has its
Right.
own set of things. And me personally, I well, I mean, I personally would am much more hesitant to say the phrase unless I'm aware of who's listening, because I'm
Mm.
worried that now I have to be aligned. Like now, my mind is now everything I think is being attached to a
Sure.
bunch of other stuff, right?
Well, and it is a real organization, as you said, and I don't know the extent of the financial and political power, but I think it's pretty powerful, especially as of what like has taken place this last year, to the point where I think when the BLM organization wants something, they're at the point where they're getting it, and it's difficult to sometimes have like a nuanced conversation about it for people. I think it's like this is we're sort of at times confusing, again, exactly as you described, a morally right thing with what an organization is proposing by using morally right virtues to say, well, then if that is so, if Black Lives Matter, then this policy must be. But
I
then at
agree.
the
I agree
moment
with
that
that.
when the phrase or the comment of this and then now you all out there may not be clear on the fact that there's an organization as well, and we have money and power and influence now, and the world wants to see Black Lives Matter, and so
Mhm.
we are going to dictate policies that we would like to see. And one of the things, and I really want your thoughts on this, that concerns me is we're not able to have a discussion about those policies, because if we do, we're seen as saying Black lives don't matter.
Yeah, no,
It's
I think that
difficult.
that's kind of a far left figure four leg lock. You know what I mean? It's it's like if you don't support my prescribed set of policies, then therefore you are morally defunct. And yeah, I think that that's a big issue, and I think that extends to a lot of other, like I said, sort of at the beginning, factions, right? So
Yeah,
if I don't,
true.
if I here's another example, and if I don't support the Green New Deal, therefore I don't care about climate change, right? There's another
Yeah,
version of that,
black and
right?
white. Boom, boom.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it definitely is a
You're
concern
not
of
even
mine.
allowed to see like what's what's in the deal, like what's in the terms,
Yeah, yeah,
who's
yeah.
affected by this, what is the trade-off. Everything has a trade-off, and I also think that's another thing that we don't often talk about is like who wins but who loses,
Mhm.
who are rights taken away from, perhaps. And again, I
Mhm.
think that's the challenge that we're having is there's a strength in the way that these policies are initiated that we are being told, or it's not even that somebody is saying you're not allowed to question them. I think it's more an inherent feeling that if I do question them, I will sort of be pushed to the fringes and labeled and not taken seriously, or not to open up a whole other can of worms, but cancel culture. Like if
Mhm.
I question any of these policies, if I was some major celebrity in particular, boom, canceled. Like, why did you question the Green New Deal? Why did you question defund the police? And I think that's another thing. I have a
Hard.
feeling that
It's
it's
hard.
hard. It is hard, and
Yeah,
I
I
have
mean,
a
it is
feeling
hard.
that
It's hard because we all know, we all agree, like you said, by saying morally right. Like
yeah,
most of these issues that, like, most of these issues concern all of us. You know what I mean? Like, I am extremely concerned about police brutality. I'm extremely concerned about systemic racism. I'm extremely concerned about climate change. I'm extremely concerned about sex trafficking. All of these things that the sort of the left factions are starting to teeter off into. Most of us think it's disgusting. It's just like you said. I really like where we're going with this. Whereas I think a lot of us start to get lost when that the person that is leading a movement, they attach a policy to it, and therefore it's no longer I can't. I have to agree. I agree with you that it's wrong or whatever's going on, but now I have to
right,
align to the policy,
correct,
and it's also a lot of it. I think is just very how would I say it? It's not practical. You know what I mean?
right.
So we're not going to abolish the police, folks. It's not going to happen,
No,
right?
and nobody
So,
actually wants that. Nobody
but some people
actually.
do. Some folks do.
Well, I think what I'm saying is if you extrapolate it into the future and then you showed me the reality, I think most people would be like, oh shit, this isn't exactly what I thought I wanted. Like, this
Yeah,
isn't what I signed up for
I agree.
in that
And
sense.
that goes, and to be fair, that goes to the right as well, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
like the deep state, and it's all a big like most of these folks want a deep. There's no deep state, but it's like if they most of these folks want an apparatus to protect them, right? And
Right.
to our earlier discussion of censorship, a lot of folks, the same folks that would say it's all a deep state conspiracy, want that very deep state to protect their ability to tweet. And
Yes.
so it's
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
it's it's pretty funny. But yeah, sorry.
No, no, no. It's good shit, man. It's good shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this stuff, man. And I did see right before we jumped on, I did see a video you posted, and I'm going to include that in the show notes for people because I think
Thank
I
you.
couldn't get through it. I'll get through it after as well. But it's like
It's
I think
dense.
you address it well. It was like 10 minutes before we jumped on, and I need to watch the whole thing. But you address a lot of these things, and your delivery is amazing. And obviously, as a YouTuber, the quality is amazing. And so, I definitely want to link to that for people because I think you go into this stuff in a very organized, rational, pragmatic way, and that's so needed right now, man. That's something that I've been attempting to do as well. Is like just create the right environment for discourse like this. Like, dude, how rare is this today? And so one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you is like to create examples of what it looks like to like, do you know how many things so far we've talked about that could set somebody off the deep fucking end? Like just what did you say? And then their identity comes into it and all of this, and we're just sitting here talking about these things without attachment to them. They're just ideas. And we don't have that today. We don't have that today.
So
In fact, I
true.
think one of the things I have to do is just clip this segment right here to share because it's like this is such an important thing to really get out to people this idea of what does beautiful, amazing intellectual discourse look like. It's very rare
Mm.
today.
Yeah. Well said, man. I mean, I think one thing that Clubhouse itself with, and also folks like you and I connecting is we're. It's not easy for all of us, right? Like I think that to have a civil, intellectual, sometimes contentious discourse is hard. That's why
Yeah.
it's so important, right? We all have little triggers and little, nervous moments that we want to push our ideas the hardest and judge the other person and morally grandstand. But part of the reason we are where we are, outside of some kind of partisan opinion, is because a lot of us aren't doing the hard work to do what we're doing, and that's why it's been so crucial for me to reach out to folks like yourself and all the people that we're in rooms with.
Yeah.
I've I all the time I feel myself getting tense because I feel like somebody's saying something that might say something about their moral position, but
Mm.
it's not. I'm also a person that struggles to always have moral clarity, right?
Yeah.
So the only way we're going to grow is working together. And to just, it seems like this is the type of podcast I could push this stuff out here, but also I would highly suggest
Right.
meditation. Meditation is one of the best ways, on top of civil discourse or in tandem with civil discourse, to help with this stuff. Getting triggered, thinking that people are nefarious, right?
Yeah.
I meditate 10 minutes every day as a morning routine, and often I find myself in my meditation going through political or moral like judgments of people. And
Yeah.
I force myself to sit there and just think, well, first of all, Drew, you're sitting in a room staring at a candle. So whatever you think you're doing by thinking all this crazy stuff is not helping. And two, you may not have all the access to your best versions of yourself thinking this way. And I think that meditation really helps with that.
Dude,
There's my
could
pitch.
not agree more with you. I could talk to you about meditation for hours, but just to add, to chime in, as we would say on Clubhouse. Yeah, let me piggyback off that real quick, Drew. So the idea of becoming the watcher is one of the most fascinating things to me. It's like these things that we identify with as thoughts, where we believe that we have this moral position and we're not quite actually sure where it comes from, are just thoughts. They're completely an illusion. They're created by the monkey mind. And the moment that we sit back in meditation and we allow the thoughts to kind of be there, and we're not trying to hammer them down, we're not trying to silence them. I think that's one thing a lot of people get wrong about meditation. No, 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 no. The thoughts are normal. Like, you just watch them. You just watch them. And the more you watch and you move from the position of identification of the thought to the position of the watcher of the thought, there's this incredible piece, emotional intelligence, that builds and you cultivate over time, where then when you are triggered about something, you realize, like, that's not me, that's not my identity. Or you're having a discussion with somebody, you understand that that thought that is floating across your mind, like, maybe there's a way to actually be unattached. And that idea of non-attachment, obviously the Buddhist idea of non-attachment, is where this is all rooted. Like, that's where this all comes from. And so I think it's the most beautiful thing ever. I couldn't agree with you more. One
Yeah.
of the things I wanted to finish off with is, because I can't talk to you and not talk to you about YouTube, man.
Oh yeah.
You are a YouTube fucking superstar. You've got
Thank you, man.
400,000 subscribers.
Mhm.
You have an amazing niche teaching people how to rap around the world.
Yeah.
Your videos are fire. I actually watched some of them. So I think, there's so much I'm sure that you could say about YouTube, but I'll pose a question to you, and that is, in 2021, if I'm starting a YouTube channel, what's the 80/20? What is the 20% that
Mhm.
really is going to drive 80%? And where's the focus? Because there's so much to it, especially with the amount of competition now on YouTube. But I think it goes without saying the opportunity that a creator has on YouTube. I mean, it's incredible. It's the second biggest search engine in the world, as everybody knows. So it's like, and so much more of our searches are going to YouTube first. So where would a
Yeah.
person begin?
This is actually perfect timing because I'm starting, and I'm starting my own personal, like my Drew Morisey personal brand. I'm starting a new YouTube
Mm,
brand, so I can help run you guys through where I think I'm going. Right. So,
right.
I mean, the first thing is, you find your niche or videos that you like or something that you want to cover, and then go to the most successful channels that do that. You can, this is like tactical, right?
Yeah.
Go to videos or uploads, and then sort by. There's going to be a little tab that says sort by, and then go by most popular. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you go to videos of any channel of something you like. What's a channel you like stylistically, whatever. Sort by most popular. Now, really do a deep dive in an autopsy on what are those videos covering? Like, what's the headline? What's the thumbnail style? What's the video style? And then you think, okay, what's a version that I could do that is me, that I could do to either compete with that, or that somebody who would like that would probably enjoy, right? So
Mm-hmm.
again, just using my example, right? So Drew Morisey, this new little like personal brand I'm doing, sort of the stuff we're doing. It's like kind of public intellectual pundit type stuff. So I
Yeah.
might find 5 pundits that I admire, or may not agree with, but do YouTube well, right? So you could
Yeah.
look at, I don't know, the Officer Jackson guy or whatever. I don't know, the right wing guy,
Mm-hmm.
Ben Shapiro,
Ben
whoever.
Shapiro.
Ben
Yeah.
Shapiro. On the left, you might go to like Hassan Piker, whoever, right? You find
Yeah.
pundits. Then you organize. I would organize their channel, their videos based on popularity, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'd look at, what itch are they scratching creatively? Are they using a big expensive camera? Are they covering shock jock stuff, right? So in my case, a lot of those channels I just listed cover what I call shock jock news, right? Like, did you see this liberal get owned by this college
Mm.
student, right? So I have to figure out what's a way that I can do videos that maybe cover the same topic and maybe stylistically are the same, but in my own style. So,
Yeah.
maybe what I'll do is you saw one of my first videos is about the Trump Twitter ban. So it looks, and it's the headline and all that is the same as probably any shock jock thing. But when you see it, it's, oh, this is a calm dude in
Yeah.
front of some books. All right. So I think it's inspiration based, looking at the channels that you enjoy, and finding what's the one difference maker that I can do, right? I'm sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So like I would look at something like yeah, I'd go to like Tim Ferriss or Lewis Howes and be like, all right, like what have they been doing and how do I put my spin on that and how do I take this content that I just did with Drew and go like 5 tips to starting on YouTube, boom 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 and just kind of like make these little clips out of that. Got it.
Make it right. Use their same
Structure.
structure with a little bit of twist, because a lot of what's happening, just from a sort of algorithmic standpoint, is a lot of the trick is to get the algorithm to believe that your video is the new
Mm-hmm.
person or the new channel is a good or better or same version of the of the video. So your job is to get the algorithm to know that Lewis House fans are going to enjoy
So
flow.
so just to
Yeah.
clarify, is the creator literally attempting to create the same concept of the same video, and the idea is that YouTube will suggest it next after they watch the Ben Shapiro
Yep.
video. They're going to watch the Drew video. Like, is that the
Yep.
idea?
Exactly.
Similar head. So that's why you're saying similar headline, similar
Right.
style, similar thumbnail. Maybe even you didn't say that, but I kind of know what you mean. It's
Right.
like
Right.
stylistically, the shock jock kind of vibe, if that is what your niche is doing, so that it's just so that's because I remember Lewis saying this as well, where 80% of his traffic is coming from the suggested YouTube,
Yep. Hmm.
not search.
Exactly.
And
That's
is
the
that what you
that's the hidden
see
secret.
as is that correct for you as well?
100%. 100%. So let's
Huh.
just say, let's use a
So
really
that's
simple.
like the nuts and bolts, really, because I was going to go, well, Drew, what's the nuts and bolts about title and thumbnail and this and that? And you're basically saying just emulate what's working in your niche.
Right. And still be you, right? It's not
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah,
stealing,
yeah.
right? But yes, emulate style, tone, right? So another example would be, let's say that you want to make the #1 morning routine video, right? There's a
Right.
million and one my morning routine videos. It's hard to break into that niche, right? But
Yes.
what you can do is, I've looked at this before. Any of us who've watched YouTube videos with morning routines, they're usually, the style is, it starts off with the person waking up, right, and they probably have a voiceover. They have camera angles. It's more like a vloggy type thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to compete with the other morning routine videos, you're probably going to want to do a version of a vloggy type thing, because the audience has already shown
Mm.
this is the style that I want, right? And you do your
Right.
spin on it. But yeah, that's it. And then just with the headlines, nuts and bolts is, yeah, you can. What I always do, this is a really simple trick. Go to a niche that has nothing to do with your niche, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
let's say we're neither of us are in fitness, right? So go to the number one fitness channel again, sort it by most popular videos,
Mm-hmm.
and then look at the structure. All right, so it's going to be, let's say, 5 ways to lose weight, right? 5 ways to get ripped for the summer. Take out lose weight, take out rip for the summer, and
Mm-hmm.
put whatever your niche's pain points are. Right?
Got it. Right.
One of my most successful videos with the rap channel was 3 things you need to give up in order to become a rapper. I got that from a friend of mine whose YouTube channel is fitness, and it was 3 things you need to give up to get ripped and lean.
Yeah.
I just took that structure, put my own thing on it, and I got twice the amount of views that he did
And
with
the
the original one.
reason for that is because it's a proven headline.
Yep, it's
It has nothing to
yeah.
do with the algorithm there,
No,
right?
not
There's no
well.
suggestion. There's none of that. It's just like I'm gonna find good formulas, good headline formulas. That's really what we're addressing there.
It is that 100%, but it's also because there's a keyword embedded in it, right? Get ripped and lean is his keyword. Become a
Yes.
rapper, right? And
Yes.
so you want to be sure to be using the TubeBuddy app, which can
Yes.
cover it at like another point or
Mm-hmm.
so but yes, you want to do your keyword research and then plug and play based on the structure, the keywords people are most looking for, right? So
Beautiful.
3 things you need to give up to have a great morning routine. A great
Mm-hmm.
morning routine is the keyword, but we're just using the classic structure.
Beautiful. So I'm hearing title. I'm hearing reverse engineer the style in your niche by most popular. Look at the style. Look at the overall like maybe length and audience they're
Mm-hmm.
serving and how they're
Mm-hmm.
serving it. Um, I'm hearing. I'm sure thumbnails are important as well to a certain
Huge,
degree. Yeah.
huge.
And is there anything else in there that's like the 80/20 to really like what
Um,
you're going to do like for this new personal brand
oh yeah,
that would be a
definitely. Okay,
focus?
I think the last big one is don't feel like you have to do 5 videos a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
That to really get down to 80/20, you can totally do this system once a week and still blow up, right? Especially if you knock out all those small nuts and bolts.
Hmm.
Um, you know, more is better up to like maybe 3 videos a week. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
doing 5 videos a week, especially if you're not like a news based channel, you're
It's
probably
overkill.
overdoing it. You know, you could be spending
It's
more
great to
time.
know.
Yeah, so that's huge, huge. Don't feel
Great
like
to
you
know.
have to do it 5 times a week. That'd kill you.
Dude, gold. All right. 1 million subscribers coming 2022.
Hey, man. Let me get a clip of this so I can give
For
my
both of
testimonial.
us. Yes. Yes, man. Yes. Dude, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you. Really excited
Thank
for this
you, man.
friendship and just getting to know you, man. And
Yeah.
amazing discourse. Any final thoughts as we close out? Where can people find you? How can they support you? And anything else you want to close out on?
Thank you. Well, yeah, first off, thank you, man. This is the first interview I've done trying to be a little bit more personal brand,
Mm,
intellectual stuff. So thank you for, reaching out to me and letting me kind of start my journey. So you have a big part in that. To reach me right now, everyone can just follow me at Drew Morisey. So that's Drew, M as in Mary, Ori, S as in Samuel, E as in Eric, Y. I'm starting to. I have a YouTube channel, but I'm just starting. I will be promoting all of that paid newsletter. So just Instagram. I'm
beautiful.
there. I'm reachable.
Beautiful. And obviously, if you want to learn to rap, Drew's your man.
How to
This is an
rap? Yeah,
amazing
that's
channel.
that's the channel. How to
Yep.
rap?
Yep.
Easy to
Literally,
remember.
the How to Rap
Yeah,
channel. Beautiful, man. And I'll link
yep.
to all your handles and everything in the show notes for people. If you guys are listening, check out the show notes. I'll also link to Drew's video he made on Trump censorship, big tech censorship. And thank you,
Thanks,
bro.
man.
Really appreciate you. We'll
Thank
talk
you.
soon. That's a wrap. There it is. I hope you enjoyed it. That was a blast for me. I learned a ton. There were some serious, serious gems and nuggets in there. Again, as we say on Clubhouse. For people asking how to get on Clubhouse, the best thing you can do, by the way, is just download the app. It automatically adds you to the waiting list. And there's this weird thing where, like, if you have, like if you were in my contact list and you joined Clubhouse and I have you in my phone, sometimes it'll notify me and say, hey, do you want to let John in without using an invite? We're going to let you kind of basically like sneak him in. And that's the best way to do it, is just download the app and people will be able to invite you in. Or worst case, you find out who's on it, like one of your friends, and you ask them. But I think they only give out like one invite per person. So, but obviously this thing is going to open up more. But if you are into listening to fascinating people from all walks of life or leading discussions, I really am a big fan of this app. I absolutely love it. So with that said, hope you enjoyed. Shoot me a message with your thoughts on Instagram at Arman Assadi. And I will catch you in the next episode. Take care of yourselves. Peace.